We're here to talk about Smashing Machine, specifically because I mean The Rock. The Rock rocked. I think that was really bad.
Yes,
That was really corny. But anyway, The Rock was like awesome, and I think we have to start
he
there because
was.
that was like I feel like this is the big storyline heading into this was that everybody's been saying Dave Batista is the better wrestling actor and John Cena is the better wrestling actor. Which check out Peacemaker if you haven't seen that yet. I just finished season two. Finale was not that good. Kind of a letdown with all the hype James Gunn was like peddling out for it, but John Cena is so funny. Yeah, so it's been going around for a while that The Rock is like the worst wrestling actor, quote unquote. And I think he kind of put that to bed a little bit. Like I think he kind of quieted the haters a little bit. This feels like Aaron Judge's recent postseason performance that he just had, where like everyone was saying, "Oh, Judge can't do it in the postseason," and then Judge was
Right.
like on fire. The Yankees obviously lost. The rest of the team stunk, but Judge had that performance where you're like, "Oh wait, no, this guy is actually pretty good." And I feel like that's the type of the performance that The Rock had because dude, he crushed it as Mark Kerr. And I want to know your thoughts because for me, I've said this to you before. I've said this a couple different times. The biggest compliment I think I can give the movie is that I forgot The Rock was the person playing the lead man.
Yeah, I think that I agree. I think you said it perfectly there. I think he really bled into the role, and that was I didn't think that was going to be the case. I like going into it. I'm like, all right, I know they're actually going to give a good performance. It's what we're hearing. Like, I'm not expecting anything average or anything. I'm expecting no, it's going to be a solid performance. But I was worried that it was going to be hard to separate it. This is the first time we're seeing The Rock in this kind of role, and I think I mean, I was surprised by a couple things, but mainly I was surprised by the subtlety of the role. It didn't, there really, I mean, there were a couple of big explosive moments, but not a lot. And it really relied on these sort of like smaller scale, more gentle moments with him that, like, seeing that, I was like, whoa, all right. This isn't just like a good performance. Like, he's really giving something to this. And you're right. He nailed it. And I think like it's so important for an actor to bleed into a role. Like if I can think of one recently where like it's a really big actor, but they play such a crazy character and yet somehow you don't see them in that character is like Sean Penn in One Battle After Another, something like that. Or like, man, I've seen Sean Penn my whole life. I've seen him in so many movies. And the fact that he could still go into a role and disappear and he is that character that those are the best actors. That's what makes like an awesome, phenomenal actor. The Fillmore, Philip Seymour Hoffmans of the world, like these kind of people are like they become different people, and you cannot recognize them, and you can't you just you're so bought into the world and the story. And I think The Rock was. I mean, first of all, really good casting, I felt, because he does have a sort of voice that is kind of calming or a bit, I don't know how to describe The Rock's voice, but it's like there's a way that he delivers things. Where I'm like, yeah, I could see him
Yeah.
being sort of a gentle giant
That's what I
type
was gonna say. I was
character.
gonna say like a gentle giant. Like he talks really soft, and I think that comes from him like being that public figure where I'm sure he's done a ton of stuff for kids and like charity type stuff, Make a Wish type stuff. And he's been, I mean, he's Maui in Moana, so I think he's got like some of that tenderness to him. Obviously, I think another one that comes to mind, funny throwback, Tooth Fairy comes to mind.
Yeah,
Or, what's the one where he's the football player?
the
I don't
game plan,
the game plan. That's like another good one where he's like a very
classic.
like calming guy. Which, dude, I just saw that pop up on my TikTok the other day, dude. Goated movie, kind of like, like,
It's very much of the time. Like when it came
dude.
out, there were so many of those kinds of movies out, and I
Yeah.
remember loving it. I watched it. Like I remember the ending with like the blonde lady who's like his age or something like
Yeah.
that, and they're like, I remember her just like farting. That's all I remember is she rips ass at the Super Bowl, and that's like, and that joke stuck with me because it was so stupid. And I forget the actress's name. She's great. She may have passed on,
Yeah.
but she's awesome.
Did you say
And
she
that
passed on? Did
moment.
you say she passed on?
I think she may have.
I
Maybe
think
I'm
she
thinking it's
died.
somebody else. I hold on. No, we're doing.
Dude,
Hold
no
on. I'm looking.
way.
I'm looking.
Well, while you're looking for that,
Yeah, look. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
I was gonna say while you're looking for that, I always remember for that movie too the scene with the ballet scene. I mean, it just quality stuff. Such peak like mid early 2000s, like mid early 2000s uh
Yeah, yeah,
cinema. I feel like dude, it's so funny. But like I remember seeing it as a kid, I loved it. Is she dead by the way? Did you
yeah.
finish?
She's not. She's not. Totally thinking of
Who's
somebody
the
else.
actress?
Uh, what's her name? I
Dude, that
just
was
had
an
a
insane claim. You're just like, yeah,
insane.
this
I
woman was
totally,
just
for
ripping
whatever
ass in
reason,
this movie and she's dead. So
because I feel like I
it's
remember like
insane.
recently thinking of that scene, like, oh man, I'm so sad that she passed on. Kira, Kira Sedgwick,
Okay.
she's 60.
You saw that scene recently of her ripping ass, and you're like, bro, damn, I wish she wasn't
R.I.P.
dead.
R.I.P. Dude. What a
R.I.P.
shame. Such a talent. And
Yeah.
shit. No, she really was good in that movie though. But no, I that era of movies were so fun, and The Rock was the man for the job. I remember him in
Yeah.
Journey to the Center of the Earth.
Yeah, he was in that.
No, well, it wasn't Journey to the Center. It was it or was it the
I think it was
Journey
something
to
like
the Center of
that.
Earth 2? It
Yeah.
was weird because there was the one Brendan Fraser from years ago, and then they
Yes.
like
Yeah.
reboot. It was weird, whatever.
I mean,
But
Jumanji.
Jumanji,
What's the Jungle Cruise was another one.
Rampage.
Skyscraper. Dude, legendary
Los
movie.
Santos or whatever it was called, like the not Los Santos, that's GTA.
Yes, GTA.
San Andreas,
San
where it
Andreas.
was like,
Oh, dude, yeah, he's the helicopter pilot.
so you could see that he was going for the money in a
Yeah.
lot of these. There's a pattern of him being attracted to those kind of movies.
And the movie
So
was
him
very
in
much like
this is,
watch The Rock do like insane shit all the time. And this is kind of
right.
like the same thing, but more like watch The Rock do insane shit in like a cool acting way. You know what I mean?
Yeah, just dramatic way and
Yeah.
tapping into the character. And again, like you said, disappearing into the role. That's the biggest part of this performance for me is
Mhm.
the not really seeing, especially because he's also playing a like a mixed martial artist. Like he's playing something that's sort of similar to the field that he was in. I mean,
Mhm.
wrestling and stuff like that. So it's like it is there is a connection, and I just yeah, I feel like you could tell that he gave a shit about this role,
Yeah.
like really did. And I mean, there's just a couple of these little moments like the one in the shop in Japan when he buys the bowl.
Mm-hmm.
There was something so warm about that scene. Like I remember sitting in that scene and just being like, man, like I could have a whole movie of this. There's something
Yeah.
so like you said tender about his performance and just like you so badly wanted to like I guess crack the code a bit with him and try to figure him out and like, well,
Yeah.
why are you this way? Why are you a bit maybe insecure in this way? Because look, both him and I forget her name already. I just had it. Emily Blunt's character,
Yeah.
like they both were not good for each other. Like there's very much like I can understand people being, oh, she was definitely like a bigger problem. I honestly think that's more so of I think that was more so of a script not giving her a whole lot of substance or not giving her enough substance.
Mm.
I think they sort of nudge there. Like there are moments where she will say something and I'll be like, oh wow, that was like, I see where they're going with her. Like there's a moment when he's saying like he's talking about the process or whatever, fighting, or like he's talking about his craft. And she's like, oh yeah, yeah. Like she's like getting into it. She's trying to like be interested. She's like, no, I want to take interest in what my husband's like very passionate about and loves. And he takes it as, oh, you're talking over me, or
Yeah.
like you're whatever. And she's like, no, no, I'm engaging with you. And in those moments, that was kind of early on in the movie. In those moments, you just see, oh yeah, they're just not meant to be in a relationship. They're just
Yeah.
not meant to be. They could be each other's lives. They're just not being a married couple. It's not a thing that's going to work. Now, of course, end of the movie, they say they were married for 6 years and they had a kid. Um, but like I felt like with her, I definitely felt like there needed to be like a little more,
Yeah.
especially with the big I won't spoil necessarily, but like crescendo scene towards
Mhm.
the end with her. I think that would have hit a bit harder if there was a little more maybe meat and potatoes in the second act with that, and because she leaves for a good amount of time too. Like she's not in the film for a decent amount. I think in the middle there, if I remember correctly,
Mhm.
and he's kind of on his own. And then she has a moment where she regifts him the bowl. She puts the bowl back together
Yeah.
and says, in Japan they have this just this way of thinking of things that are broken and put back together are actually more significant and more meaningful than what they were before. And that is such a beautiful and perfect way to describe Mark Kerr and his journey.
Yeah.
And that moment really was touching for me. Because I think I don't want to say, oh, I didn't expect maybe them to have some reconciliation, but I was like, that was really touching. I was like, okay, that's like because it's not just you're apologizing, like you're doing something. And for me, it was like I got a look into her as a person, and I was like, yeah, she's definitely damaged,
Yeah.
but there's something there, and I kind of wish the movie just a little bit more into
I
that. I
agree.
think it would have, you know what I mean? It just would have built that up. a little better.
Yeah, I agree. I think I really like a lot of the points you made. I love that scene with the bowl, and I love Mark's response too when he's like, "This is genuinely like the most beautiful thing anybody's ever done for me."
Yeah.
Something I thought that was interesting about their dynamic was that I think just because of Mark's appearance being like that bigger, like I mean, he's humongous. The Rock's just
Mhm.
absolutely enormous. And being a fighter and being like a violent guy in the ring, you would expect the same thing. Like I remember there's this scene when he's high on the couch and she's kind of yelling at him for being high. And I remember in that scene thinking like, oh, like I feel like he's gonna hit her or something like that's gonna happen, like that he's
Mhm.
gonna regret because he's high and he's mad and whatever. And he does smash the door.
Yeah.
But you never see him get physical with her, like in any way, even later on in the film when she's taunting him and telling him to do it. And I think it was really interesting dynamic because I remember at that point I thought she was in an abusive relationship where um Mark was potentially hitting her, especially when he got high or something like that. And it really turns out that she almost, well, let me say this. I didn't see that coming where it was more so, it felt like they were in an abusive relationship with each other. And I guess that's the epitome of a toxic relationship where she's obviously taking advantage of his weaknesses like oh she's drinking in front of him she wants to like have parties all the time with him and is like pulling him away from his training but meanwhile too with Mark and I'm not saying like either one is like innocent or better than the other. Meanwhile, with Mark, though, he also kind of like makes little comments to be like, now, why couldn't you do this properly? Or why couldn't you do that? And kind of like belittles her a little bit. And that's kind of like her point, too. Now, do I think like he was maybe the worst offender? Sure. But I thought it was interesting how they kind of like played on the dynamic of the relationship because I think it's easy to think and see the relationship and think like, oh, Mark is the one who is abusive. He's the big guy who can't control his temper. He's a fighter,
Right, right, right,
because that happens in so many fighting movies, like Raging Bull, for example, like
right, right, right.
anger issues, being physical. So you kind of expect the same thing. But I really like what Safdie did with the way how he wrote the relationship, and really like again how they were kind of really, really just bad for each other. Um,
Yeah.
and like you said, I think I wish we got a little bit more of a conclusion later on because it does feel like they have like that big blowout fight that leads to her being sent away and all that. And you're like, oh wow, Mark like really stood up for himself, and he also protected her in that scene because she was potentially gonna like take her own life. Um, and yeah, and it leads to not like nothing, but you think, wow, okay, Mark is really coming to terms with this relationship, finding a way out of it, and it's going to benefit him when once he gets into the ring. But then the end of the movie hits and it says they got back together and got married, and it felt like almost like you'd see that in any other movie and be like, oh, nice, they got back together. But I
No,
saw
right,
that
right,
and I was
right.
like, dude,
Yeah.
why did they get back together? Like
Yeah,
that,
I think it
and then
was
and
like,
then it just says
yeah.
like, and if it said like, oh, they got back together, they had a kid, they're happily married, you'd be like, okay, cool. And then it was like they got back together, they had a kid, and they got divorced after 6 years, and I was like, well,
Right.
it sounds
Right.
like they just regressed into what they were before. And it kind of takes a
Yeah.
little bit away from that whole scene at the end, in my opinion, a little bit. Because you have to imagine they were probably just as toxic married as they were when they weren't married. I mean, it lasted for
Right.
so maybe not, but
I feel like with that, the ending was, I almost found that kind of funny. Like they almost knew, like they had a sense of humor about it.
yeah.
Like, and they got, like, to me, it was very much like, almost poking fun at it. And I feel like the relationship, yeah, it was very toxic because I don't think she understood what it would be like being in a relationship with somebody that is so committed to this one thing and is like
Mm,
essentially dedicating her life to it. And he didn't understand that in pursuit of that, um, in pursuit of that, you have to essentially, I feel like, close yourself off. Like you can't be with people in a relationship because you're giving your whole self to this thing. You're not giving it to another person. So like, she comes in before his matches and is like, just saying hey or whatever, and you could see that he's like, looking away from her, and his trainers like giving her glances, and he's like, oh, and she walks, when they walk out, she's like, oh, so like all you were just talking behind my fucking back and all this shit. I'm just trying to like say what's up for your match and blah, blah, blah. And that whole part of it for me, I think with Mark Kerr's character was just like. it was communication, but also just like not having a whole lot of self-awareness to be like, hey, like, yeah, it's cool you're pursuing this thing and you're constantly you're winning. You're a winner. You don't lose. You're on top of the world. The feeling you get when you walk out and everybody's cheering for you. And I mean, he says in the movie, it's a high.
Yeah.
It's a high unlike anything else. And I don't. I just I feel like, and this happens in a lot of movies like this. I mean,
Mm.
Whiplash as well, like just being obsessed with this
The
pursuit of
addiction of
greatness.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's an addiction. I mean, like a Michael Jordan type. Like
Right. It
he's
parallels
amazing.
his own drug addiction. Like you
Right.
feel it.
It,
Like this guy has that problem with addictions and having like that
right.
rush of being high. And you see it both in like his competition and in
Right.
his personal life with him doing drugs all the time.
And it's all just perspective because like he does it he just saw I feel like he just saw things the wrong way because it there was a self-serving nature to this all. Like
Yeah.
he loved the feeling of being admired and stuff and yet like right when his wife would do these little things for him or you know like she made the smoothie or whatever but didn't do two
Didn't
bananas
do it
she did a
right.
half banana.
Mhm.
Um, and again, like he didn't handle it in a shitty way of like, oh, fuck you. Like he was like, oh, I'll just make it myself. But like that indifference, that essentially when you're doing that in
Yeah,
a
that
relationship,
sucks. It's
you're
it
yeah, right.
sucks.
You're
Yeah.
kicking the can. You're
Yeah.
not addressing your shit. You're
Right.
just like, oh, it'll just figure itself out. And I think that maybe was Mark's shortcoming was thinking it was just gonna whatever. It was just gonna
Yeah.
self manifest. It
Fine.
just but that just isn't how this works. And she the problem with her, I think, is it's like, yeah, like I don't think he was the right partner for you because you also, if you're okay, I'm gonna get married to this man and he's in pursuit of this, you also have to acknowledge that this is a sacrifice. Like there is this part of it. It's like, yeah, he's gonna be traveling all across the world. You're not gonna be able to see him. There's that side of it. And I think she even says it in the movie of like, I didn't know it was gonna be like this or something to that extent. Um, and so yeah, I came away from the movie being like, man, I don't think either of them are bad people. I think they just were not good for each other in a relationship in a romantic way. And I think I felt like it was more so making a commentary on like that pursuit of greatness and what it can do to you. And then we see at the end, it's just like he's like, I don't like fuck it, whatever. Like he's just like he's in the shower, he's like, you know, like he's having a laugh. He's like, I gave so much shit about this, and yet it really isn't anything. Like, it's not a tangible. When you win it, it's not even a tangible thing. You won, great. You won this match based on the rules and the parameters that they set. But like, tangibly, really, what did you get out of it? Like, what did you fucking win? I think that's what gets that message gets lost when it comes to like what is winning, what is actual
Yeah.
like victory.
What does
Because
it do?
it's right, and we saw it in Iron Claw too. I think
Yeah.
was it last year Iron Claw?
Like
Same
Iron
sort of
Claw.
notion
Yeah.
of like, wait, my dad took this shit so seriously and hammered this over us again and again
Yeah.
and got us obsessed with it. At the end of the day, it's all kind of bullshit. Like Ric Flair just came into our locker room and was like, "Hey guys," and
Yeah,
I
like
was,
whoa.
and he
Woo!
doesn't give a shit. He's
Yeah.
like drunk as shit. And then you know Zach Efron's character was like, oh, like
Like yeah,
that's what my dad was so obsessed with was this.
yeah.
This is what he was so obsessed with. And that's what I really appreciate about the Smashing Machine was tapping into that sort of aspect of the that process.
Right. I think too, it has a lot to do with the concept of like also nearing the end of your prime.
Mm.
Kind of like the wrestler in some ways. And also like I mean, just to kind of tie this all together, kind of like what we saw with Tom Brady too, with him and Giselle Bundchen.
Yeah,
It's kind of like the real life example, but it's true. And I
yeah,
think it's coming to and that not to say he was like past his prime in any way, but more so like that just pursuit of greatness, which like, okay, what is
yeah.
another Bowl ring gonna prove? Um,
All right.
and I feel like that was a big thing for Mark Hurt too, was just him nearing the end of his prime. Like he knew the best was behind him and like having to accept that. And I think also that was part of the ending too, with it, that scene with him crying in the shower. It's kind of like him acknowledging also that like he is kind of past his prime. Like in the past, would he have ever really lost that fight? No, I don't think so. And
Mm.
I think it's him accepting that he is past his prime, his time has passed, but he nonetheless is still like I guess doing the thing that he loved because I think it said at the end he fought for another couple of years, right? I think it's
Yeah.
like
Hmm.
five, six
Yep,
months.
yep, yep.
So I think it's also just like being in the ring in the competition and doing what you love, whether it's like good or bad for you, I think is also his pursuit of like again what we mentioned with him chasing that high. I think even to like a different extent we saw it in like F1 with like Sonny. chasing
I
that
gotta see
high of
F1. I gotta see F1.
okay, all right. I'm not, I'm not going to spoil, but chasing that high of like being a champion.
Mm.
So I think the film does a really good job with that. Unlike the wrestling side, like what does it take to be a champion? It's doing all these drugs and taking these painkillers to keep your body going. It's having a horrible home life. It's training for hours. And again, I think something that I think is interesting too is the comparison between Mark and his friend, because
Yeah,
Mark
Mark
lives in
Coleman.
like this pretty big house, Mark
Mm.
Kerr, um, with like a lot to show for it, pretty well known. And again, yeah, I think he's got a super nice house, really nice car, whatever. Then you look at Mark Coleman's character, lives in like a much smaller, almost like a little condo with like all of his trophies in the corner, and he obviously he's the one that ends up becoming a champion towards the end of the movie. But I think it poses the question of too, is like what at the end of the day, which is kind of like what you were talking about, what does becoming a champion achieve you? Like if you're not doing it for the money, if you're not doing it for I guess like if you know you're kind of past your prime and you're out of it, like at the end of the day, what are you doing it for then? And I think it's an interesting
And
question. But I want to talk a little bit about some of the technical stuff of the movie because I personally love the way that this was shot with like the grainy
yeah.
style to it. Like it looked almost like a sports doc, but at the same time, it stayed like super, super colorful.
A very docu look to it, and yeah, visually I really dug it. I think it looked great. I'm a bit surprised that people were like, "Oh, it's just kind of look kind of boring." I'm like, I disagree. I think it looked really really good, and especially the match scenes. I love that like none of the matches are shot from inside the ring. It's
Mm,
all outside. So that was a really cool kind of perspective. We're never like in it like that, and like thoughtful. Like I think that's the thing with Safdie's direction here. There's a lot of thoughtful choices, and I think like at the end of the day, yeah, this isn't some like big, like huge scale story. Like it's not this whatever. It's gonna change your life. It's a slice of life kind of story, in my opinion, that works really well though. Like it's not this big sports biopic where you follow him from when he's a kid and
yeah,
wrestles. It's none of that bullshit. It's like, no, we're gonna like just tell this story, even if it's sort of smaller scale in the grand scheme of things. And I think that works to its benefit and it works to the performance's benefit because they didn't have to overdo it. Like The Rock or Emily Blunt, they didn't have to have any of these. I mean, Emily Blunt has a big scene at the end, but it wasn't unearned or it wasn't like kind of coming out of nowhere. It was like, no, I get her character and what she's going through. And everything just felt right. And that is due to the performances for sure and the direction from Safdie. And but I think just the approach I think just the approach to the film, like that Safdie had, just like we're gonna make this a little bit almost like a hybrid, not like a documentary, but like exactly like a
but
documentary, but it's gonna
feel
have
wise, it has
a
that feel.
feel. Yeah, and even from the pacing of the story, it doesn't necessarily feel like a three-act structure or thing. It does sort of feel like it's free and aimless. I liked that about it. I
Mhm.
could see how it could rub people the wrong way. I can. I just didn't come away from that. I came away from it like, nah, this is just really solid film, straight
I
up.
agree. So let's real quick and wrap it up here. What would you give this film? You said it's solid.
Oh.
Give me your rating out of a five. We'll do out of five, and then as we go along here, and we do more of these reviews. I think we have to bring back our popcorn system.
You're right, right.
Some popcorn, of course. If you're an OG fan, you know. But for now, just give me your rating out of five.
I'd go 4 out of 5. I think it was just really well made. It was well crafted. I got more out of it than I expected. The score is great. Forgot to talk about that. The score is really, it's just jazzy, like really well paced score. Almost like we talked about, like Birdman-esque a
Yep.
bit. Like
Yeah.
it felt very similar. And I didn't expect anything out of it because no one talked about it. Nobody really said, oh, the score is like a standout. I think it was. I think it's one of my favorites of the year. And overall, just the whole movie, the whole like I just felt like it just really worked for me. And I could even see myself like watching it a second time, genuinely. Like just to at least like maybe get some different extra thoughts on it. But yeah, I really liked it.
I agree. I give it a four, and I could also see myself watching it for the pure fact that it's just like a visually fun movie to watch. Feels like a visual
Yeah,
treat.
right.
Um,
It's a visual treat. I agree. I
yeah,
agree.
very, very good. I liked it. Definitely interesting to see how some of the response is, but it's good. So yeah, we'll
Yeah.
wrap it up. We both gave it a four. Some more great movies coming out soon. We got Shelby Oaks coming out. We have
Oh
Scented
yeah.
Values coming out soon. A lot of good ones. Springsteen. So a good couple
We
weeks
got
coming
a
up,
lot.
and we will be there to review it.
Awesome. See you guys.